look good.
You don't.
Let's go find Tommy.
I cannot believe they pulled it again with Agatha All Along, and this time it was Billy all along. What a great series. Who knew Agatha All Along was going to be one of Marvel's best TV shows in the recent years? Like, I cannot comprehend how it was so good, but it was so good, and it just had so many good moments. So let's jump into episode 8 and 9 and break down what happened during those and all the big moments that came with it. Starting with the moment at the start of the episode where Alice is really dead and Rio is bringing her into the underworld. And it was even more devastating because Alice was even like, I finally broke the curse. She was able to do something with her life, and Rio turning around and saying she died protecting someone, saying she's a protection witch. She did do her job in the end of the day, but also at the end of the day, after episode 8 and 9, she didn't have to die. But in the end, Rio was just doing her job as Death. And before we even got into episode 9, Rio revealed a bunch of stuff. Like when Agatha ran outside and saw Rio, they start talking about how the coven is getting smaller and smaller, like Agatha promised, revealing that Lilia is actually dead. Now, one of the things I thought was going to happen here is that Lilia was going to survive after last episode, as when she was sacrificing herself, that was going to be her way of completing the trial. She got her power, she figured out who she was, and it would teleport her out of there, just like we saw at the end of the episode with Jen being teleported out. And it also confirmed that this was all Agatha's goal from the beginning. She was leaving the bodies for Rio. That wasn't a play on words. It wasn't Agatha playing with her. It is exactly what she was doing. They also revealed that Agatha was distracting Rio from Billy this entire time because Rio says that Billy is an abomination and he's disrupting the balance. Because he died, he's not supposed to come back to life. And when they talk about balance, they're talking about the cosmic balance of life and death. As someone dies, life is born somewhere else. You're not supposed to keep coming back. And they mention again that Agatha is walking the road with another woman's son, mentioning no one has special treatment like Agatha. Rio gave her nothing but only took because Rio did take her son. The only person that hasn't died and Death has not taken is Agatha. Everyone else eventually gets taken because all roads lead to her. And on top of that, in the next episode, we learn that Rio gave her time with her son. That's special treatment as well because no one else gets that time. And even Rio turning around.
Why do you let them believe those things about you? Huh? About Nikki?
Because the truth is too awful.
All ties back in episode 9 where they revealed that her son was destined to die. Rio was coming to get her, so she let everyone believe she was this monster who gave up her son, when in reality, that wasn't the case at all. Her son was just meant to die, and Death eventually came for him. It shows like the softer side of Agatha. She's not always a monster. She's kind of cursed at the end of the day, but she's not a monster all the time. And I do like how they kind of dive more into that in episode 9, which we will talk about that as we get there, because it's so much to cover as its own, as it pretty much twisted the entire series. And it's kind of ironic how Rio from the very beginning, saying that she's the Green Witch, was stating that she was Death this entire time. The Green Craft is about the circle of all living things, all going into life and death. So really interesting that from the very beginning, she was Death. I mean, we all kind of figured that from the beginning. We were all theorizing it through the entire time, unless you were spoiled by the Funkos. Now, Rio turns around and says that what Billy wants from the road is a violation, because Tommy isn't out there yet. He's not actually existing. So that just shows that the only person able to bring Tommy back is Billy. And Rio even mentions that the son of the Scarlet Witch stole a second life and she has to take it back, because you can't die and then come back. That's Death's whole purpose, is taking you to the afterlife. You can't die and then come back again. So really interesting how they died into that, because they even mentioned that they couldn't just kill Billy because then he would just reincarnate again. So saying that Billy can't die, pretty much saying that anytime he dies, he could reincarnate, which is very interesting. And the only way for Rio to actually be able to take him is by him turning himself in. You can't force someone to die, but if they give themselves up, then they can go to the afterlife. So interesting how they played that. Obviously, it doesn't go that way at all, but I like how they kind of set that up. Plus, it kind of ties into the end of the next episode where Agatha is a ghost because she can't go to the afterlife to face her son because she chooses not to die. Even though she's dead, she hasn't moved on yet because that's her choice. And I like how they set up Agatha's eventual betrayal, because Agatha wants nothing to do with Rio after she took her son. So if Agatha turns around and brings Billy to the end, this way Agatha can be let go of Rio, never see her again, doesn't want her around anymore, because she cannot handle seeing her after what Rio did to her by taking her son away. This was pretty much just a bad breakup. And I thought it was pretty cool how we saw Rio leave by like cutting through the reality with a knife, because it kind of reminded me of other characters who cut through reality, but it doesn't look like a curtain. It looks like actual like ripping through reality. Even you can think of America Chavez's power of punching holes through reality. So something like that. So I thought it was cool how they used that. It's also very practical because they could just had a curtain on set with a green screen and just cut through it right there. So I thought that was pretty cool how they did that. And they pretty much set up Agatha having a heart this entire time through Billy. Billy seeing the good in her, knowing that there's a chance that she could be good, even though he turns around and says that Agatha cannot be more than a covenless witch, kind of hurting her in the end, because they show how Agatha has a heart, especially when it comes to Rio. She cares about her, even though Rio hurt her horribly. So I do love how they kind of tie back into that. They do that constantly through this episode, where they make you feel for Agatha, kind of giving you sympathy for this villain who is the only reason she's kind of a villain is because her coven betrayed her, she lost her son, and then she just always helped Death, the woman she loved, get more bodies. So very interesting to see how they played that, and episode 9 just blew that open even more. And I thought it was interesting when they went back on the road and they ended up right back in a full circle where it ended. Agatha getting pissed because they still have one more trial to the end and she wants her power back, and then Billy saying screw the road by putting on his shoes and then teleporting back into a body bag in Agatha's basement. It's very interesting because when it ties back into what the big reveal was at the end, that it was Billy all along. The fact that Agatha wanted to get to the end because she doesn't know how to leave the road because she's never been there. And the thing is, this final trial was pretty much just Billy realizing how he's going to find Tommy, how he's going to connect to him, and how he's going to break out, which in the end left Agatha there all alone, leaving her to have to figure out how to break out of it. But before we got to that, I do love how we got the big reveal that Agatha was the one that put Jen in the binding. 100 years ago, it was her. And I like how she says that it was either bind or be burned. So I guess at the end of the day, it was either she was gonna die or she binded the witch so that she could survive, and she didn't realize that it was Jen until right in this moment. But the thing is that what I thought was gonna happen here is that Billy pointing out that Jen was able to save Agatha and Billy, one from being poisoned and the other one from bleeding out. It was a way that it was going to turn out that Jen had the power in herself all along, and that she was never really binded, and that it was just her holding herself back because of trauma. Obviously that didn't happen because Agatha was the one that binded her, but I do like how they set that up with Jen being able to unbind herself with a ritual and get her powers back and just leave. One of the only survivors from the Witch's Road, the actual Witch's Road. And this is when Agatha's plan comes into play, when she starts wanting to manipulate Billy in order to get her power back. Like, I love how she's like, hit me, I want my power back. She only wants what she wants, going back into her selfishness, even though we've seen the good in her. And Billy's right to not trust her, knowing that she could just take his power and then leave him. He knows that's going to be a risk until she starts bringing up Tommy, and she admits that Tommy doesn't have a body and that he's out there, even breaking the news that Rio's mad because Billy could bring Tommy back, showing her playing both sides. She's playing Rio because she told Rio she'd bring him to the end, but also playing Billy in order to get her power back, using both of those sides against each other. Now, Agatha's smart. She knows what she's doing, and I love how they end up getting him to relive his memories right before the Hex came down with Wanda and Vision saying goodbye to them, and I thought that was great. It's showing the connection to the WandaVision series, showing how they left, how it just went to nothing afterwards, and then Billy needing to find a place to put Tommy's soul. Tommy's out there in the spiritual realm, so there's only one way to get him back. We're gonna throw him in a body. So then they find a poor boy drowning. Some kids are teasing him. They push him in the pool. I guess they drowned him and then left. And then Tommy's reborn into a new body. And I like how they did this because Billy turns around, am I killing a boy for my brother to live? And Agatha being like, no, Billy, sometimes boys die. So I think in this moment, the person Tommy's taking over, Billy wasn't the one killing him, but he was dying. He was gonna die no matter what. So it's Agatha lighting that burden on Billy as he brings his brother back into a new body. But they never even ended going to Tommy in this season, so I was hoping there was a post-credit scene where they'd find Tommy. So now it's like, where are we gonna see Tommy? When is he gonna appear? Is he gonna be in a Scarlet Witch movie? Is he gonna be in Vision Quest? Is he gonna be in another series? These are all big questions where who knows when we'll get the answers for them, because with the MCU, especially in recent years, it takes years to see a character return, especially characters like Shang-Chi, who we literally haven't seen since his movie a few years ago. And I do like how they do it too. When Billy gets out of there, Agatha helped him in the end because of her son. There is a softer side to Agatha. She had a son of her own. She wanted to help this kid. Even though she didn't want to admit it, she still wanted to help him. And it took me this whole season to realize the hair in her locket was her son's hair. This entire time it was there. And I like how she uses the piece of dandelion, her tear, and the dirt from the ground to pass the trial in the end. She was able to pass. She got out of there. Even though she got out, she never got her powers back because that's not how the road works technically, because it's not actually real. And I love that Agatha got Billy out, but Rio wanted him to surrender, not just get out of the road. So then we ensue a big fight. Semi-big fight where Rio beats the crap out of Agatha. And I love how all the people in Westview, when they're looking up in the sky, they're just like, ah, shit, here we go again. They're getting put into another witches battle. And when we went outside here, I wrote down that the Witches Road leads witches to their death. And that's why Agatha has been the only survivor of the road. Agatha was always killing the witches to get their power, so it kept giving Rio bodies. And this was all confirmed in episode 9, where the road wasn't actually real, and it was a song this entire time, setting up that Agatha has created this false narrative in order to steal powers from Witch through the centuries, and on top of it, that's why Rio always got bodies. So very interesting to see how they constantly played this, and it was such a big reveal that I was not expecting at all. I expected the road to be an actual thing. I was not expecting it to all be made up by Agatha and her son, and Agatha was just using it to steal Witch's power. Now, I did think it was really cool and a really touching moment at the end when Agatha was getting beat up by Rio that she was trying to use her coven's power. She used the magic circles like we saw in Alice's trial. She used Lilia's fortune.
When she calls you a coward, hit the deck.
When she calls you a coward.
Hit the deck!
Which we saw literally an episode ago, and it all came into fruition right here. Even her using water to heal her wounds, like how Jen saved Billy, like all these moments where she's learned from the people she's been around to try to help herself out. I mean, and then she gets shredded to pieces by glass until Billy comes in a comic accurate goddamn suit to save Agatha. That was honestly my most exciting moment from the episode, is Billy coming in a comic accurate costume and throwing Rio to the side. And also Billy having that hero moment of giving Agatha his power, saving her. After everything that's happened, after everything she's done, he wanted to still help her in the end because he's not evil. And I thought Agatha was going to take most of his power, but then she actually stopped. There is good in her. She kept her promise, didn't take his full power, and at the end of the day, they worked together to kind of stop Rio for a moment. But not in this giant CGI battle, which I was thankful we didn't get to see. I'm glad it didn't end on the CGI battle kind of ending like most of the series have ended on, but more like a touching thing. Agatha willing to sacrifice herself to save Billy by saying,
You're not bad.
Neither are you.
and Billy actually sacrificing himself because he sees the good in Agatha. He wants to help her because he sees the potential. And then when Billy offers himself up, Agatha turning around and saying, oh, there's the boy as you promised, turning around back on her evil deeds. She's still looking out for herself, so it kind of flip-flops back and forth where you're like, this is the good in her. This is the bad in her. She's always about herself, but I really like how it ties back to the start of the episode where Billy said that she was a covenantless witch, and she returns the saying as she leaves him to die for a moment. However, when Billy asks about if this is how Nikki died, it gets Agatha to turn back and kiss Rio, sacrificing herself to save the boy. She wasn't able to save her son, but Billy, I feel like she sees something in him, kind of like a son to her. So she's saving him, turning that good part of her, and getting one last moment with her love while also dying. So that was like a big shocker. I'm like, oh my god, how are they going to do one more episode? We just had Agatha sacrifice herself. Billy gets to go home to see his parents. Everything's over, right? Nope, because that's when we go into the Billy going into his room, seeing the Lorna Wu poster, seeing the Wizard of Oz figures, noticing the road. It looks exactly like how pictures in his room does, seeing the ocean view from the home they were first in, and then turning around that the road was created by Billy. It was Billy all along, which kind of ties back to other episodes where Agatha's talking about how the Maximoff magic is dramatic because it was literally his magic that made the witch's road. Pretty much pointing out that the road is like Wanda's hex, but a little bit better, but still the same. So honestly, crazy how that episode ended. Like, absolutely insane that that's how they tied everything into it. And I can't believe how well this reveal was done. I mean, there was theories going around. I even have a note from last episode, people talking about theories that Billy was the one that created the road because of the subway under Westview. In the end, it all tied together. People were right. It was Billy who created the road. And who knew that was going to happen? But that also puts bad things on Billy because Billy created the road. That means he also killed all of them. And it also ties back into when Sharon died, where Agatha says, I didn't think you had it in you. All pointing out that Billy was the one that killed him, and she figured that this entire time because Agatha had never been on the road because the road never existed. And we all learned that in the next episode where we pick up with Agatha in 1750 giving birth to her son. And then Rio showing up and Agatha knowing that her son was not going to make it. And it was pretty devastating to see Agatha beg her love to not take her son. Because why would you want your love to take your son away who's dying? And then Rio doing the one thing by offering more time. Not giving us a timeline, but she got like a solid good 6 to 7 years with her son before he was taken away. And they really show that Agatha all these years has just been stealing other witches' power. Using her son to do that by getting him to lure them to her. She takes their power. And I love how her son is kind of like her heart. He's the one questioning the importance of killing these witches to survive, and Agatha thinking that the coven will kill her if she doesn't do that, which ties back to her and her coven when her coven tried to kill her, and then she took all their power and survived, where she never trusted anyone after she was first betrayed by her mother and her coven, so she never trusted anyone else, and then her life became kill or be killed. And on top of that, she was killing all these witches to keep death off her son. While she took the bodies after bodies and made sure that Rio wouldn't take Nikki away from her. And then the one day she didn't kill any witches because of Nikki, death came for him. After Nikki was taken away, she was so taken over by her grief that her power became her addiction to make her feel good again. which kind of ties back to where I pointed out a few episodes ago that it was kind of like an addiction. She can't help herself but take this power. And then we get the big reveal that The Witch's Road was a song that her and her son created this entire time. I was not expecting that. I did not realize that they would be the ones creating this ballad for other witches to sing and setting up this whole story that people would know and see from the past that would carry on for generations and generations with actual no truth to it. But I do like how they set up in this episode more devastating stuff, that Agatha's talking to her son, showing him her powers, and then saying she doesn't have the power to heal him, and that eventually someone will come to get him. Which is like devastating. She can't heal her son. She can't do anything to save him. There's just at some point in time, he's gonna die and be taken away. Which you would think, as her son being the good part of her, she would kind of slowly turn better, especially after he performs a song in front of everyone. The witches wants to take him home with him, understand what the song is, and then he runs off because he doesn't want Agatha to kill anyone. Like, this is like the good part of him. And then Rio eventually comes to take him away, which is so devastating because he knew he was getting taken away. That's why he said bye to his mom and then he left. But he's showing that Agatha, she could have been good. She had so many moments to be good, but because she was so betrayed and had very big trust issues, she just could never let go of that. She always had to be the one that's killed or be killed. And the fact that Rio came to get her son, she was betrayed even more because the woman she loved took away the one good part of her. And then I was not expecting to get a montage of Agatha's thinging, working with covens, and just taking their power one by one, goading them into attacking her. So it just shows where she come from, what she's been doing through all the years, and also confirming that she had never actually technically crossed the road. She knew this entire time that the road did not exist and that Billy was the one that created it. And I've been saying for the last 9 episodes that Agatha seems confused by the road. She seems scared. She doesn't know what's gonna happen, and that's because she's never actually walked the road, which is true. I was just wrong that there wasn't actually ever a road. I love how they did this twist. It was done so well. The series has done a great job doing a lot of these reveals, a lot of these big moments, and I love what they did, especially with Agatha showing up as a ghost in Billy's room, wearing a comic book accurate look. She's got silver hair, and then on top of it, she does become a ghost in the comics during a time in the 2017 Scarlet Witch run. So it's cool we have her here as well. And I love how she even jokes that, unlike Wanda, Billy did something interesting with his powers. So instead of just making it a town that you could live in, he created a road with trials, with life or death situations, and it kind of shows how Billy has so much power. He is super strong. But then this also gives us the very dark moment of Billy made the road, so he got everyone killed. And like I said earlier, which ties into Agatha saying, I never thought you had it in you. He killed Sharon, he killed Lilia, and he killed Alice. However, he did save one life because Jen made it out of there with her power. And I do love how Agatha points out, like, hey, I was gonna kill them anyways from day one, which is true. So the reason she was so shocked at the very start, because when that door opened up, she's like, this isn't supposed to be here. The road isn't real. I'm just here to steal all their powers. So at the end of the day, Billy saved one of the lives that Agatha was gonna take. And they do tease something dark for Billy by Billy saying he will never get used to taking lives, and Agatha saying, we'll see. Definitely teases him to do something darker down the road. Now, I don't fully think he's gonna ever go evil, that he might take a life here and there, but I think all heroes eventually take a life here and there. Now, I love how Billy tries to turn around and banish Agatha by going to her house and trying to get rid of her. And I love how he says, you can either go to the light or back to the real toxic embrace. And I thought this was a moment that he was gonna get rid of Agatha, she was gonna move on, and it was all because he's mad as fuck for what Agatha did. She knew the road is fake, she let them die, and on top of it, she was gonna kill them the entire time anyways, so it didn't matter. However, they continue to push Agatha's character by having her say she won't face him. She doesn't want to face her son after everything she did, especially because her son didn't want her killing all the witches, and that's all she did through centuries and centuries and centuries. So at this point in time, we are now on an Agatha Harkness redemption arc. She is going to be teaming up with Billy, the boy she has a soft spot on, and I'm pretty sure that's because of Nikki. She said Billy reminded him of her son. So it kind of ties in that this will be a moment as these two go out into the world. They're going to go find Tommy together. It's going to be a way of Agatha actually becoming good by being inspired by Billy and getting this redemption arc. And now all I want to see is Agatha, Wanda, Billy, Tommy, and Vision reunite. I just want to see it. I want to see what happens, and I'm very interested to think what Marvel's doing because they did an amazing job with this series somehow. And I do really like how this ending shows that Billy sees the good in her. He sees that she was just heartbroken from losing her son and that she's just been a traumatized, broken person throughout all these years. And I do like the little touch at the end where they leave a little memorial in the basement of Sharon, Alice, and Lilia. Now Ralph Boner's gonna come home, eventually have his house back, and he's gonna be like, what is this in my basement? So I guess we'll see what happens. The series is over. They're gonna go find Tommy. Who knows what they're gonna do now and when we're gonna see them again. But what an amazing series. They did such a good job with it. I cannot wait to see when these characters return. I'm hoping we don't have to wait too long to do it. And hey, who knows? Maybe the Young Avengers will be Billy, Agatha, Miss Marvel, Ironheart, Kate Bishop, Thatcher, aka Cassie Lang, America Chavez, and they'll be teaming up and going together to find Tommy. Honestly, if they do a Young Avengers TV show, they could just give us season after season of these characters going on adventures and doing these cool things, and then eventually have them in a movie with the Avengers, and then they can stay in their TV form. You could do so much with the TV side of Marvel. If they just had proper runtimes, proper lengths of episodes, like no 5-episode series, give us 10 or more. They could do a great job with some of this stuff. But who knows? I guess we'll have to see what Marvel ends up doing. Next year's going to be a big year for Marvel Television, so that might be them realizing what they need to do, especially with shows like Daredevil having like 20 episodes. What did you think of this series? What did you think of the final 2 episodes? Are there any Easter eggs or references you noticed during it? And how do you feel about the setup they set up? I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the like, the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my Marvel and DC breakdowns. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you later.